you all for being here today. As Tina was just saying, I just heard news about the fire. I'm not good with catching up with the news because of, it doesn't set the right mood for my day. But my thoughts are with everyone who are affected by the fire. And thank you for those who are able to join us. So Tina's going to be recording this session and sending it to everyone who can't join us today. As I was saying, today is the last workshop of our 3-part series. So if you've been with me or my colleague Kevin, he's been teaching for the past 2 months. So this is the last workshop of this series, and you'll be getting your vouchers sometime this month. So I'll be sending Tina a survey link, and you can fill out your mailing address, and I'll be sending you your vouchers. So we're going to be together for the next hour. So hopefully you are in a comfortable, find yourself comfortable and you're able to connect with us. And before I begin, I want to make sure everyone can hear me. So please type in the chat box or give me a thumbs up. Thank you, Tina. If you can type in the chat box, I can hear you. That would be great. Okay, great. Thank you, Tommy. All right. 2 people, so I will move on. That's good enough. Oh, great, thank you, Carol. And I think everyone can see my video and my slides. Is that right? You should see a welcome sign. A-OK, wonderful, thank you, Linda. And you're welcome to show your video if you wish, but that's always optional. And for today's session, we're going to explore what expiration dates mean on printed food, excuse me. If you've been with me before, this might sound familiar to you, but it's a nice refresher. So please go in your kitchen, your pantry, wherever you store food, packages of food, and find one that has a best by date or best before date. And when you're back, just type in the chat box that you're back. So I'll give everyone about 2 minutes or so, 2 minutes. All right, if anyone joined just now, we are just going into our pantry to find a packaged food that has an expiration date on it. I don't think I heard anyone come in. Or maybe those of you who just connected to audio, that's what we're doing. So wait 1 more minute. Looks like someone's coming in from the waiting room. There's Mia. All right. What a great group. I'm so happy you're all here. Hi, Mia. I think I also saw Dee Moderman. If I ever pronounce your name incorrectly, please correct me. I noticed you both joined just now. So you're just in time. We're just getting started. And we are just going into our kitchen or wherever you store food to find a packaged food with an expiration date on it. We're going to do a little activity with those.
About a minute to find something. And if you're not in a position to find something, maybe you're not even at home or you don't have food around, that's okay. You can just sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, I think that's enough time for everyone. If everyone can type in the chat box that you're back, that would be great. All right, got it. Thank you, Carol. Tommy, nice, got it. All right, cool. That's enough for me. Beans, oh, me too, Tommy. That's a very common pantry item. All right, so before we officially start, I always like to start off with something called group norms. These are just workshop guidelines that we all agree on or expect. That way we can all have a good time together. If you've been to maybe previous Zoom meetings with lots of people, you may notice it gets a little crazy. So I do want to make sure we all have a good time. So I like to set some group norms. And welcome, Joyce, we're just getting started. I'm talking about group norms. So Please be mindful of your mic. It looks like most of you are muted, but if you ever decide to unmute, just please acknowledge your mic picks up a lot of noise. So if your TV is on, if your cell phone rings, if you use the restroom, we might hear you. So please mute if you have noise happening in your home, but you're also welcome to unmute. This class is not me lecturing the whole hour. I want to hear from you all if you have questions or comments. And if you do choose to speak up, please raise your hand. I'll do my best to check the chat box if you want to speak up, or the participant list if you're raising your hand if you do want to speak up. And if you do speak up, please be mindful of the time you're using to share. It's not that we don't want to hear from you, it's just an hour goes by really quickly. So keep it around 2 minutes if you have a question or a comment or a story to share. And some of you are doing great already with using the chat box. So that's a great way to chime in without interrupting anyone. So those are great. The chat box is great for comments and questions. And of course, we're all adults, so please respect each other. And I'd also add have fun. I hope you all have fun here and learn something new to help reduce food waste. And if you have any others you want to add, just let me know. Okay. If you have any trouble with using Zoom, just let me or Tina know and we'll do our best to help you. But you won't need to use all of the functions. I think most of you all are joining through the app. So the only one that would be useful is the chat box and the mic button. All right, for those of you who joined later, I mentioned before, this is the last workshop of our 3-part series. And today's focus is all about, is it trash? And I'll explain what I mean by that later. And I have a fun recipe demonstration to show you later on. And you're also earning $6 farmer market vouchers for every workshop you attend. For those of you who are a resident of San Mateo County, I'll explain a little bit more about the vouchers at the end of the workshop. And here's today's agenda. Excuse me if I pause, I'm letting some people in as they're waiting in the room. Hi, Alex, welcome. We're just getting started. So here's the agenda. We're going to do some introductions, and then we'll go into the main topic for today, understanding those food code dates. And if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about packaging. I want to make sure we make time for the cooking demonstration. Sometimes I talk too much during the cooking demonstration and we run out of time. So I'll try to prioritize that. And then we'll leave a little bit of time for Q&A, and I'll talk about the vouchers that you all are able to earn. But you're also welcome to ask questions throughout class. All right, so for those of you who are new to this workshop or don't know me, my name is Anna, and I'm a registered dietitian. I work at a little nonprofit called Leah's Pantry. I don't know if you can see the logo. It's a California-based nonprofit. We have an office in San Francisco and an office in San Diego. And we teach many workshops like this focused on food and nutrition and waste reduction all across California. But I'm based in San Francisco. I grew up here with my older brother and my mom and my dad. I'm a second generation Chinese American, and I studied food and nutrition at UC Davis. And I worked a little bit at a hospital in New York City. I worked in a New York Presbyterian Queens Hospital. Here's me passing out, I think it was pie. It was during Thanksgiving Day. I volunteered to give patients pie that day because I love helping others and also love pie. So it was a perfect blend. And outside of work, I love to go outside, especially during the season. It's really nice outside. So I love exploring nature when I can. And of course, I love to cook. So you'll get to see a little bit of that later on in the workshop. All right, so enough about me. I want to get to know a little bit about everyone here today. So please share your name. Because of our large group, we won't have time for everyone to share using their mic. So please type in your name, your preferred name, if it's not shown on Zoom already, and share what packaged food you have. If you joined a little bit later, I asked everyone to find a packaged food from their home. And if you want, you can also share what do you normally do with food that's past the expiration date. So I have a can of pinto beans. And so please share what you would do if, let's say, your can of beans was past the date. So today is June 22nd, 2022. My goodness, time has flied. Alex has noodles and you dump it. I'm interested what kind of noodles you have, Alex. Are they fresh noodles or they're dried? Or they what type of noodles do you have? I'm just curious. Tommy says depends on how long passed. We'll get to that, Tommy. Excellent. I think Tommy has beans. Mia also has beans. Mia throws it away. Very common. Alex says dried. Okay, dried noodles. Remind me to talk about dried noodles later on. All right. Anyone else? Let's see. If you don't have a food, you're welcome to find something in your home right now, but it's optional. If you just want to relax, it's hot and you just want to sit back and have a good time, that's okay. All right. So let's move on. I don't see anyone chiming in, but you're welcome to chime in as we go. Oh, Linda, thank you for sharing. We have mac and cheese. Yes, dried. All right, great. And I think someone just joined. Welcome. I think it's Inam. Excuse me if I mispronounce your name. Welcome. We're just getting started. And today's focus is all about decoding and understanding the expiration dates on our food. So before I explain these dates, I want to explain why. So one of the top reasons why many people throw away food is because they think it's expired. As many of you mentioned, or some of you mentioned, you normally throw away the food past the date. So let's actually try to understand what those dates mean before we consider throwing it away. So commonly you will see these three terms printed on food. There's best of use by, best or best before, there's a sell by date, and there's an expiration date. So what do those actually mean? So best of use by or best before, they refer to when the food will taste its best. It tastes best at this date or before this date. So it really refers to their flavor and quality, not necessarily of the safety. So it's still often safe to eat past the date. And sell by. So sell by, if you ever see this, it's normally on, I see this on meats or dairy products or eggs. And it also has nothing to do with the safety. It just refers to the date when the store has to sell the food by. And then if you ever see expiration dates, that's actually dates I recommend being more cautious about. It's found on baby formula, supplements, medicines, and vitamins. And it's not advised to eat after the date. They're either no longer effective or the nutrients have changed. So it's maybe harmful to eat past the date or no longer effective to eat past the date. So please throw those away. But for food wise, it's often still safe to eat. So depending on what type of food will determine its shelf life. So going back to Tommy's comment, depends on how long passed. This is exactly what he might be referring to. And how long a food lasts really depends on the type of food. So let's take bread, for example. All right. Just want to check the chat box really quick. Mia says, I thought that all these messages meant the same thing. Good to know. Great. I'm glad you learned something new, Mia. I thought so too. I thought in my earlier days when I first learned how to cook and shop for myself, I thought it was all the same and I probably wasted a lot of food. So you're also saving a lot of money. Carol says, Carol Russell's Stove Sugar-Free Delight has a sticker added marked down. Okay, best before December, okay, of this year. What is Stove Sugar-Free Delight? Is that a drink or something? You'll have to clarify, Carol. I'm actually not sure what that is. So let's look at bread, for example. And for those of you who just joined, I think Kanhei, welcome, or Kunhe. Let me know if I mispronounced your name. I'm so sorry. We're just getting started. We're talking about how long foods last past their date. So I want to start off first. This only applies to unopened food. So if your can is open, if your mac and cheese box is open, that's a different rule. But when foods are unopened, they can last a bit longer past the printed date. So let's look at bread, for example. So for bread, it can last 4 days past their date if you leave it on your counter or your shelf. And as you can see, when you store foods in a colder temperature environment, like your refrigerator or freezing temperature in your freezer, they can last way longer. So one tip I like to do when I buy a loaf of bread, and if you're only cooking maybe for 1 or 2 people, it might be worth saving half of it in your freezer. So I like to do that because sometimes I get through a whole loaf without it spoiling, because when it's warmer, especially during summer, it's easier for things like bread to get a bit moldy. So that's one tip for storing bread. Let's see, let's look at another product. So let's look at eggs, very common. So eggs, they can last 4 to 5 weeks past their sell-by date. So I'm still eating eggs that have a sell-by date from May, and they're fine. If you're a little skeptical, one trick is to put an egg in a glass of water, put it gently in the glass of water, and if it starts to sink and it's still fresh, if it starts to float though, that's a sign that it's spoiled. And of course, you can always crack it and see if it's discolored. And I recommend cracking it in a separate bowl before you crack it in your pan or mix it with other things, because you don't want to put a spoiled egg and mix it with fresh ingredients. That'll just waste more food in general. I heard a few of you have canned beans. So as you can see, they can last up to 3 years past their date. So my pinto beans, they say best by September 20, 2023. So that's next year, but it could be potentially still good to eat by 2026. It won't be at its best, but it'll still be okay to eat. As long as it's stored properly, it's not dented and it's not bulging. So that's something to be careful about with cans. All right, let's look at another one. Let's look at milk. So there's 2 types of milk. One that's considered not shelf stable, that's referring to dairy milk that needs to be refrigerated. So either from a cow or from a goat or sheep, that refers to the not shelf stable milk. And those can last up to 1 week past their sell-by date. And you can also freeze your milk if you want. You can freeze almost any food, but it will change the texture. So it's not really great for cold cereal, but it could be good for cooking or baking. And if you buy milk that's shelf stable, that doesn't need to be refrigerated, they can last up to 6 months past their date. So pretty cool, right? You can see that many foods are still safe to eat past their date. Why are dented cans unsafe? That's a great question, Joyce. So one reason why dented cans are unsafe is because I think it's raises the risk of a certain bacteria to grow when it's dented. And you can get something called botulism, which can be very fatal and dangerous. So we don't want you to sacrifice trying to save food for your health. So it raises the health risk when it's dented or bulging. All right, hopefully that answers your question. Good question. All right. And I will say for dented cans, it depends on how dented it is. So if you can fit your finger in the dent, that's when it's unsafe to eat. But if it's like a small dent, it should be okay, like a small little bump. But I would eat it as soon as I can. Don't wait, 3 years to eat it. But it does raise the risk if it's a super dent that you can fit your finger. That's the rule of thumb that I learned. All right, great question. All right, so now let's explore some of the foods that you all brought. So for those of you who brought beans, does anyone have beans that are in a tomato base, or is it just regular beans, because there's different types of beans, right? You can find beans in tomato sauce, or there's beans with certain flavors in it. So does anyone want to share?
Playing from Anna's iPhone.
Oh, sorry, that was my Alexa talking. Black beans, plain. Okay, so if you just have plain beans, the rule of thumb is just 3 years past the date. But if you ever buy something with tomato or something acidic, you'll notice that some canned foods play a different rule. So high acid foods like applesauce or pickles or baked beans with mustard or vinegar or tomatoes, they have a shorter shelf life. And the reason is because it's acidic and it can erode with the can. So it might not taste very good and also might be unsafe to eat. So those have a shorter shelf life compared to low acid foods that don't have tomato and they're cream based, or it's just vegetables or beans that are plain. Yeah, I would say the same thing for lima beans too, Mia, unless they have tomato in it. So I would say 3 years. Very nice. Anyone else have a food they want to share? Or find something interesting? Let's see what else. If you have canned fish, like tuna or salmon or sardines, I see those as common pantry items. Those also can last 3 years past the date. So that's really good for emergency purposes, right? Anyone else find something interesting or have a food they want to share? The chart goes beyond this page. So there's actually 3 pages worth of this storage life past expiration dates pages. So I can email this to Tina if this is something interesting for you all. Many people in my class like to print this and put this on their fridge, because sometimes we're not sure if foods are safe to eat if it's past the date. So this is a great guideline. All right, let's see. Does anyone have any of these foods? Looks like there's fish, there's meats, there's processed meats, there's prepared items and deli foods. Does anyone have a food either in their fridge or right now that they see interesting or find interesting? One jumps out to me. So pasta, if anyone has ever bought pasta that's fresh, so not dried, they have a, or their storage life past the date is 1 week. So it's still fresh to eat past the date, and 1 month past the date if you put in the freezer. But I've put fresh pasta in the freezer and I just defrosted it. It's way past 1 month. I think it's okay. The quality might not be so good. Spam, very nice, Carol. Let's see, spam. I would say spam is like a mix of different things. I would say maybe a luncheon meat, but it's not sliced. So unopened commercial packages. So I would say 2 weeks past their date. Wait, no, these are things you find in the deli section. Maybe spam comes in a can, right? So I would go back to canned. So actually canned meat. So excuse me, correction. Canned spam and any other meats, they last 2 to 3 years past the date. So that makes more sense. I think spam can last very long. Excellent. All right, let's go to the last page. So there's 3 pages worth of this storage life chart. So you can take your time to read it on your own, but for the sake of today's class, we'll just skim through a few more. So I remembered someone had noodles, dried noodles, very common pantry item. And I would categorize it with pasta dry. So if you are using this chart at home, you might have a hard time finding the exact food. So do your best to kind of categorize it with what it relates to the most. So noodles, I think, would relate to pasta dry. So dried noodles can last 2 to 3 years past the date. And that makes sense to me because since they're dried, there's a very low risk for bacteria growing, any mold growing. Pathogens don't like or certain bacteria and molds that are harmful for us, like environments that are high in moisture. So since pasta is really dry, there's very low risk. So they can last pretty long. Dry uncooked rice mix in cellophane package. Ooh, very specific, Carol. Let's see. So dried uncooked rice, is it mixed with anything like seasonings or anything? Because normally when I see boxes of prepared rice, normally they come with flavorings. So let's just look at rice. So if it's white rice, it's 2 years past the date. And then if it's brown rice, it's 12 months past the date. So the reason why brown rice has a shorter shelf life is because it still has some natural oils in the bran, in the germ, and that can go rancid quicker than white rice because when we're making white rice, that bran and germ gets removed. So that way the shelf life is actually longer. So when I do open whole grains like brown rice, I actually like to store them in my refrigerator to protect the oils from going rancid. But you don't have to, especially if you don't have room in your fridge. It's only good if you want to extend the shelf life. If you're going to finish your brown rice within a few months, it should be fine. No seasoning. So I would categorize it with maybe the white rice, Carol, or maybe the brown rice, whatever type of rice it is. But I would say up to between 1 to 2 years. And then a cellophane package. What is a cellophane package? I've heard of cellophane noodles. I haven't heard of cellophane package. What is that? Cellophane package. It's a cellophane bag. Is it like biodegradable or something? I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. I don't think that affects the food quality very much. It's a crackly bag like cereal. Oh, okay, it's just like a type of packaging. Okay, then that won't affect the food quality too much. It keeps it fresh, probably. All right. Anyone else have a food that they want to share? All right, I'm going to test your knowledge. So let's see how well you were paying attention. So let's say I had a can of beans that had a best of use by date of June 22nd, 2019. Is it still safe to eat? Guaranteed that it's not dented and it's not bulging. I see a thumbs up. Yes. So like we mentioned, canned beans are safe to eat up to 3 years past the date. All right. How about canned meatballs and ham? If they have a best of use by date of June 22nd, 2015. Is it still safe to eat? No, yeah, it's a little too old. It's 7 years old. So canned meats are safe to eat up to 3 years, depending on the chart, or according to the chart. All right, we have a can of tomato soup, best of use by June 22nd, 2020. Safe to eat? Yes? No? No. So it's still okay. Canned high acid foods are still safe to eat 1 to 2 years past the date. So it is pushing it a little bit. It is past 2 years. So if you feel comfortable eating it, it should be okay as long as it was stored properly. But like I said, with high acid foods, try to eat them by the best of use by date or a little after. Don't wait too long. All right, let's go with one more or a couple more. Rice, best of use by June. Oh, I don't have a date for this. Let's say June 22nd, 2020. Is it safe to eat? Yes, very nice, Mia. Excellent. Dry white rice is still safe to eat 2 years past the date. And like I mentioned, brown rice, shorter shelf life because of the natural oils. So only 1 year. All right, I'm going to skip over a few and let's do this one. Let's do honey. How long does an open jar of honey last for? So this one's open. This is a little bit different. Anyone know? How long? if you've been with me before, dot, dot, dot. Yes, Carol, you've probably been with us before, or you may know about honey already, but honey can last technically or theoretically forever, as long as it was safely stored and naturally sourced. You didn't leave it open and got water in it and contaminated it. It can store forever. So if you do have a jar of honey, it will start to crystallize. And I've noticed some of my honeys turn a little bit black, and that's not a sign of spoilage. It's actually just the natural occurring crystallization of the sugars. So the color of your honey depends on the types of flowers the bees were pollinating on. So it's actually a sign of a rich source of antioxidants. So the darker your honey, the more antioxidants it may have. All right. So my main message with this is most unopened and undamaged packaged foods are often safe to eat after its print date. But I also encourage everyone to use their senses too. The chart and the information I gave are really just guidelines, but if you feel comfortable eating foods a little past the guideline, that's up to you, but there is a little bit more risk. And also, like I said, use your senses. Your body's designed to protect you. So if you see something funky growing in the food, if it smells off, if it tastes funny, if it has a weird texture, when in doubt, throw it out. That is also a good rule of thumb when it comes to determining if food needs to be thrown away. All right. So I don't think we have time to talk about packaging, but I can share information on it in the PDF I'll send to Tina. But for now, I want to make time for our food demonstration because I'm hungry and I want to start cooking. All right. Does anyone in here cook at all? Make any food for themselves? You don't have to make anything fancy. It could be as simple as making a bowl of cereal, making toast for yourself. I think that goes a long way. You fry an egg. We all have to start somewhere. So I'm nowhere near a cooking expert, but I know how to feed myself. So this is a crispy tofu with peanut sauce and cabbage slaw. It doesn't take too long to make, and it's a really good dish, in my opinion, for hot days like this when I don't really feel like cooking for a long time and I'm kind of lazy. So the only thing I really need to cook is the tofu. And then while it's cooking, I'll be making the slaw. So it seems like a lot of ingredients, but it's mostly pantry staples like oil and seasonings and spices. And the only produce you need is cabbage, carrots, cilantro, and then tofu. Or tofu is not a produce. It's another ingredient. And then the rest are just mostly pantry staples, so salt and oil. So it's not too hard to make. I've made this many times. It's very tasty. And this recipe comes from a website called Rainbow Plant Life. It's not from eatfresh.org. That's our other recipe website, but I'm in the mood for this because I had the ingredients for this. So I'll be preparing my kitchen station. So take some time to read over the recipe. I'm gonna actually have to transition to my kitchen. So I'll be right back.
Ooh. Does anyone like tofu? I hope you like tofu. If you don't, you can omit it and you can put chicken, that'll work, or shrimp. Yeah, shrimp will be good. What else would go?
I love tofu.
Great. Tofu fan number 2, Tina. Anyone else? If you
I don't like stinky tofu, but I like tofu.
Yeah, stinky tofu is a little too strong for me too. If you have any tofu skeptics in your home, this is a great dish to also introduce them. Because oftentimes when we don't like the food, maybe it wasn't prepared in a tasty way. So changing up the preparation method could convince you to like something. So I'll be right back. I'm going to go in my kitchen and wash my hands. hopefully that gave you enough time to look over the recipe. Can everyone hear me? I'm in my kitchen now. Let's see if I can, spotlight this one. Okay, great. And then I'll have to stop sharing. Excellent. Okay. Can everyone see my kitchen now? There we go. All right, great. Everyone see this? You should see a big cabbage. I'm gonna check the chat box. Tofu is tasty. Yay, Mia. All right. Yes, can everyone see my kitchen? I've spotlighted it, so you should see.
Yes, we can see it.
Wonderful, thank you. I just always want to make sure that way everyone's looking at the same thing. So like I mentioned, the produce is, or the ingredients list, I know it looks overwhelming, but it doesn't really require too much. You just need cabbage, of course, carrots, cilantro, lime, and then a bunch of seasonings I'll show you a little bit later, and then tofu, of course. So I'm gonna move everything over. And the first thing I'm going to do is preheat my pan. So I'm going to put it on medium heat. Minimize this. So it's just over here, nothing exciting. I'll show you. I'll show you when I'm cooking the tofu. But I always like to preheat my pan before cooking. It's important to let your pan heat up. I would say maybe a minute or two before you actually start putting oil and food in it. That prevents sticking. So let your pan preheat for about a minute or so. And then we have some leftover tofu. I like to press my tofu, wrap it around a towel, and put something heavy on it. So I just put a really heavy pan over it. And it shrunk a little bit. It was actually really uneven, but that's okay. We'll end up in our stomach, and our stomach won't tell the difference. So it's really small because it was just leftover tofu I had. So use whatever you have, but a block of tofu will give you about 10 slabs. We're going to cut them into slabs. This is just me. This is perfect for me. And I like to cut them in big slabs. That way it's a little easier to flip. So when you press tofu, it helps remove a lot of the moisture because tofu is really rich in water. So when you want to fry something that's really watery, one, it's going to splatter lots of oil and it'll hurt. It'll hurt with your hands if you get splattered with hot oil. So one, it's for safety reasons, and then the other is texture. You get a nice crispy texture when you're cooking something that's dry versus something that's high in moisture. So I'm going to check if my pan's ready. So it seems ready. You can also splatter water in it, and once it starts to evaporate, that's when it's ready, but I think it's okay. I don't have to do that. In most recipes that tell you to, use maybe 1 tablespoon or teaspoon of oil to coat your pan, it's actually more important that you coat your pan with enough oil. If you're only using 1 teaspoon because the recipe tells you so and it doesn't coat your pan, you'll have a sticky mess. So it's more important that you have an evenly coated pan. So we'll wait for that. It's shimmering a little bit. So we want to wait for a sizzle. Okay, that's good. I don't know if you can hear that sizzle. I think most people have heard that sizzle before. But it's kind of like the Rice Krispie cereal. It's like crackling a little bit, and you want to hear that when you're ever cooking food. And you also want to bring your tofu to room temperature. You don't want to bring it straight from the fridge because it's really cold. And what I've noticed is when you cook something that's really cold on a pan, it also starts to stick. So wait for it to come to room temperature for maybe like 30 minutes or so within cooking. All right, so while that's cooking, I'm just going to show you. It's just hanging out, not doing much. So that's going to cook for about 4 to 6 minutes or so, depending on how thick you cooked it. We're gonna check on it so it doesn't burn. So while that is cooking, you can make the slaw. So actually I need to cut my cabbage first. So cabbages come in many sizes. This is a huge one. This one's like the size of my head. And we want to slice this really, really thinly. And the best way I like to cut cabbage and other vegetables pretty thinly. Ooh, this is very big. Is using a mandolin. If you don't have a mandolin, that's okay. You can just slice it up really thinly. But I'm going to use a mandolin. And how I prepare the cabbage is I cut it in quarters. Lots of prep. And then I cut the core out, this part, because it's a little fibrous. Don't want that in my slaw. If you like that part, that's fine, but it's kind of hard. It doesn't taste that great. All right, so let's remove this. Oh, and I forgot to mention, before you ever cook or prepare food, it's important to use a sharp knife. Make sure your make sure your knife is sharpened. Excuse me. It's actually more dangerous to use a dull knife, because if your knife is dull, you have to use a little bit more force to cut into your food, and you could slip easily and injure yourself. So make sure your your knife is safe and sharp. Okay. So this is a mandolin. It comes in different sizes. This one also comes with different sharpeners. So I like tools that have different purposes. So a mandolin is really, really sharp. So I really recommend you using cut resistant gloves, because it looks innocent, but it's actually very, very dangerous. I cut my thumb, or I forgot which finger, cut many fingers already. And it bled really badly. So we don't want to do that. And I'm actually going to do this over my bowl. So I already started shredding the carrot earlier. Then using a mandolin, it's very simple. You just slide over the food. It's also best if you can have a grip like this. That way you protect your fingers. If I grip it like this, I can easily cut my fingers. But since I'm wearing a glove, it should be okay. The nice thing about a mandolin is it slices your vegetables very finely. And that way it can absorb the dressing nicely. Also, since it's raw, it could break down a little bit more easily too, because vegetables like cabbage are pretty fibrous when you eat them raw. So I like using a mandolin. It's a little less tough to eat. All right. Let's see. That should be good. You're only feeding one person. Of course, you can shred more if you like more cabbage. Let's do a little bit more. You can also use red cabbage as well, or purple cabbage. I don't know why it's called red cabbage. It's definitely purple. But that could add nice color to this dish. You get different nutrients when you use different colors. So you can also use different colored carrots too. Carrots come in purple and white, and I think that's it. When I grated the carrot, I also kept the peel on. So I've mentioned in my class, in previous classes, I like to keep the peel on. The peel has lots of fiber. So don't peel your carrots or any of your root vegetables, just scrub them really well. You're getting a lot more nutrition, and also you save yourself time. And does anyone save these carrot tops? I like to save my vegetable scraps. One, because I can make vegetable broth. So here's a bag of vegetable scraps I save. And then once I have a big bag, this is almost ready. I put it in a pot of water. Let it come to a boil, strain it. or let it come to a boil, let it simmer for about an hour or so, and you can make your own vegetable broth. So this is something I made back in March. I froze it, and I should use it soon because I defrosted it. So you can save a lot of money from buying or making your own vegetable stock. So I think the tofu is ready to flip. So give me 1 second. I see it kind of crisping up. If you want to take a look. Oh no, I need to use another. I find it easier when using something else to help flip it. Ooh, very nice. I'm not great at flipping. If anyone has any flipping tips, let me know. All right, very nice. So you are looking for that golden brown crispiness, and I'm gonna lower the heat a little bit. I don't want it to burn. All right, back to the slaw. So more than halfway there. Now you just need cilantro. And juice of a lime. So for cilantro, I like to remove some of the tougher stems like this. They're still flavorful. You can save them for your stock. I like to keep bowls around me for things I want to keep for my stock or compost. So actually I might want to compost this. I'm going to save this. Oh, I forgot to show you. So if you save the carrot tops and they still have the bulb attached, you can soak them in water, and over time they will grow roots. So carrots are in the parsley family, so you can use these leaves for topping your salad, or you can make pesto with them. You can sprinkle them in your egg scramble, and it's a mild taste. It doesn't taste as strong as parsley. You can have your own little windowsill garden. If you don't have space to garden, you can still grow herbs by your windowsill. And you're getting sort of double the vegetable for the price of one. If you do have a garden though, you can wait until the carrots grow really strong roots, really long roots, excuse me. And I think you can plant them. I haven't tried planting them yet. I've only grown the green stems. Right, just removing the tough stems. You want the tender stems. Those have lots of flavor. Texture-wise, I don't like the tough stems, but I like the tender ones that are thin like this. But that's your preference. You can reduce a lot more food waste by just cutting everything up. Just removing the slimy yellow parts. Let's chop this up finely. I'm excited for this. This is one of my favorite things to make. Okay. All right, very nice. And then now we just make the dressing. So the dressing is just, if you have never made your own dressing, it's pretty simple, and you can probably make it with stuff you have at home. So you just need an oil and acid. So that can be lime juice. It can be a vinegar. So I'm using a little bit of rice vinegar today. So a little bit of olive oil, actually the rest of my bottle. Olive oil, a little bit of rice vinegar, and I'm gonna juice this lime. This one's a little hard, so I may need some help squeezing lime juice out. If you ever have trouble getting more juice out of your lemon or your lime, I like to roll it. And then I learned a recent tip, you can use tongs. I'll show you what I mean. So cut it in half. And where's the tongs? So I learned that you can use your tongs. If you don't have those fancy lemons juicers, you can put your lime or your lemon and in between and kind of, I'll help you squeeze a little bit more lime juice out or lemon juice. And then you don't need fancy equipment. Don't give in to those marketing schemes. Feel like there's way more kitchen gadgets than you actually need. I think the best tools in the kitchen are your hands, a good knife, spatula, simple things. Okay, lime juice, a bit of salt. What else do I need? A toasted sesame oil, one of my favorite ingredients. You don't need too much of it, just a little dab. It's expensive, but you only need a little to bring a lot of flavor. That's also one of the reasons. And then a little bit of pepper. And then toss. I think our tofu's ready, so I'm going to, it's great timing because the slaw's ready. I'm gonna actually turn off the heat. Take it off the heat. Whoop, that's hot. Don't do that. Take it off the heat. Turn off this induction oven, stove top. Okay. Sorry if it was too loud. The oven or the cooktop I have makes a lot of noise. All right, that's looking good, very colorful. I wish I had red cabbage. That would look prettier. But that's okay. Part of reducing food waste is not always making the prettiest stuff. Just use whatever you have. All right. So while we're waiting for the tofu to cool down, we're going to make the sauce, my favorite part. If you're not a fan of peanut butter, we cannot be friends. I'm sorry. I'm kidding. if you're not a fan of peanut butter, you can use almond butter or I think tahini. That's a white sesame paste. That can also work here. I think that would be actually really tasty. I haven't tried it though. I've tried it with almond butter and that was pretty good. So peanut butter, it's about 4 tablespoons or so. And then we're going to make the sauce. We're gonna add a little bit of sweetener. So this a little bit of agave nectar. You can use honey, or maybe not honey. Well, maybe honey will work. You can use maple syrup or sugar will be fine too. And then we're gonna use another lime. How are we doing on time? Oh, we have 5 minutes. Oh, start the countdown. All right. I'm gonna use the same tongs because no one likes doing extra dishes, right? Okay. I think one small lime like this gives you about 2 tablespoons. I like it a little, I like my dressings a bit more acidic. So use it to your taste. And then 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. You can use tamari. I'm just gonna eyeball it. My spoon is full of peanut butter. Is someone laughing at me? Hopefully you're laughing at me. Okay. All right. And then about a teaspoon of sesame oil. Like I said, you don't need too much. And I like making the sauce in a jar because I like making a bit of extra. And that way I could just store this easily in my fridge when I'm done. I'm gonna use a little bit of water to thin it out. You can easily make sauces using nut butters by just thinning it out with a bit of acid and water. Ooh, it's a bit thick, but don't worry. It'll all come together. A little bit more water. I put a lot of peanut butter in there. Ooh. If you do that, you can also fix it by putting a little bit more peanut butter. I think that's the right amount. Ooh. It's all messy. That's okay. Oh, actually, it needs a little more water. I'm glad I did this in the jar, guys. This is a lot of sauce. We're almost done, I promise. Okay, yeah, here we go. A little bit of time and patience. That gives you the best flavors. Time. Okay. That's looking pretty good. It's a little thicker than I want. My gosh, I put way too much peanut butter, you guys. But that's okay. I can use this sauce within the week and I don't have to make this anymore. All right. Very nice. So you want to kind of, depending on the consistency you like, a little bit, I like it a little bit more runny, but we'll go with it because I'm running a little more. I'm running out of time. A little lime juice. Okay. Now, let's serve it up. So your slaw, beautiful, beautiful slaw, and then your tofu. So you can cut this up into smaller pieces, of course, but I'm lazy, so I'm just gonna serve it up right here. Oh, I would have liked some extra cilantro leaves here. Oh, I got some. Extra cilantro. We got our creamy, creamy, decadent peanut butter sauce. I can easily sell this, you guys. And then I also like to top it off with a little bit of crunchy texture. So I'm going to top it off with some more peanuts. Of course, you don't have to do this, but I like to be a little fancy.
Wow, that looks delicious.
There you go. Come on over. I have lots of peanut butter sauce. And that's it.
Looks
So that's
yummy.
show. Sorry, my kitchen's a little bit messy, but let me remove my spotlight. Oops. Actually, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But final words, I have vouchers for you all. So I'll be sending Tina the survey link. And Tina, you can share that with everyone.
Okay, yes, definitely.
So please fill out that survey link if you're a resident of San Mateo County, and the vouchers are good for selected farmers markets. I'll be sending you a voucher guide that lists all the farmers markets in San Mateo County that you can use the vouchers in. And they don't expire, so you can wait until whenever your favorite farmers market is open, and you can only spend it on fruits and vegetables. So we're also trying to encourage you all to eat more fruits and vegetables. And that's it. Thank you all so much for joining. It is 2:00, so I just want to be respectful of everyone's time. But thank you all for joining me. You could have done something else today.
Thank you so much, Anna from Leah's Pantry. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.